Yeah, 1920, when Carstens wrote an article about it, they called him crazy or a liar or something, because they said nothing taken by mouth can cause a woman to become sterile. Well, time has moved on, and the Indians were right. So there are a number of these cases. I think I told you the other day about the Campo missionary. The missionary with the campus. This was before there were oral contraceptives on the market, or any publicity about them, that I'd heard of it at least. And that's a bauhinia. If I remember correctly, it has to be taken, it's best taken immediately after giving birth. That's what I met a woman whose husband was running a very large cattle ranch in the jungle, a very large fundo, where they made cattle, they made cattle. They had cattle, they raised pigs, and they raised sugar cane, and they had a distillery for making aguardiente. It was a big outfit with a lot of money behind it. And she and her husband ran it. Well, she told me that when she was very, very young, she got married, I think she was 14, which is not unusual, and she went to live with her husband on his property in Campa country. Campa's a great tribe. They're great warriors, great trackers, very lively people, and smart. And she had a child very shortly after marriage, I think 9 months and 2 days or something, and she had a very difficult birth. Of course, she'd never been in jungle before, for one thing. She was reacting rather badly to the climate. And the Indian midwife who attended her said, "You can't have another child for 3 years, because you'll die if you do." There were no doctors, of course. And she said, "But I can't leave my husband. I don't want to leave my husband." She said, "Why should you leave your husband? We'll give you some medicine." So they did. And the medicine, that particular medicine, is one that, to my mind, is a magnificent example of freedom for freeing women. It stops menstruation for 3 years without any evil effects at all. And at the end of those 3 years, you just don't menstruate. It brings about an artificial menopause, but no menopause symptoms. And so then, at the end of the 3 years, she got pregnant almost immediately, and then she had, in rapid succession, I think it was in 10 years, she had 11 children. So now, with a total of around a dozen, she decided that was enough. And she took the same herb again. And she had been taking it every 3 years since, and that she was, at the time I met her, 49. She said she didn't think she was going to have to take it again, because she thought she would probably have menopause. And but she took it every 3 years. The children, every one of the 12, was alive and healthy, and they were grown up by now, and they had their own families, and her daughters and daughter-in-laws controlled their fertility in the same way, had children when they wanted them.
So what is
the plant is a desmodium. Now there are 4 species I know of. There's Desmodium canum is the one I know best. Desmodium is, I can't remember. The canum is the one. Oh yes, ascendens and axillare, and then there's one other. Well, I don't know which of the species. I'm not certain which of the species it is, but because I've since learned that the Kampa, beside the Kampa, the Yaguas, Shipibos, Conibos, and Kokama all say this is good stuff, and they use it.
You mentioned, maybe it was Friday evening, that there was also a plant or something that could be taken orally for abortion that the tribe...
Yes, there is, but that's one of the sedges I had, that we have finally decided the active principle is the active principle is a fungus that grows in the plant, and it's practically impossible to determine unless you are a member of the tribe and have grown that. They've handed it down from generation to generation, a plot of abortifacients, a plot of those which are supposed to enhance fertility, a plot which eases childhood, and believe me, that one's great. Because I had a friend who was a school teacher. I met her in a little village I stopped at, and she was teaching a Shipibo village, and she was my first link with the Shipibo tribe. They're the ones who make those beautiful textiles you showed last night.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to stay with her at the tribe and got to be great chums with all the Indians. I recorded their singing, which is beautiful. And one of the songs I love best, the women's songs are very plaintive and haunting. Very high, pure voices, beautifully flexible, and very true, and very soft. And this one song was particularly moving. It was the kind of thing you kept going through your head. And it's very hard to get them interpreted because they're sung in an archaic language. And I finally found somebody who would interpret it. And what they were saying was, let's us gals have a few drinks. Then that's smarter than it sounds. Because at fiestas, I learned, when they sing that song, Pappy can't have a drink. The men have to stop drinking when the women drink. They never drink very much. They're too conscious of their children and taking care of them, and usually they're nursing one or two. And so they... But when things are getting a little rough, very often they will sing this song and they'll have a bit of masato, and the men just have to sit there. Well, she had gone. I went back to visit 2 years later because I had become great chums with them, especially after they discovered braziers. I had done my washing and hung it on the line. And a boat came along. I didn't have my own boat then. And I was... one came along, a peki that would take... it was a collective, it takes people aboard. They sort of worked like buses on the river. And I had to hurry to catch it. And I had just got in when some of these beautiful little women came running, yelling, and they were running down, holding up a brazier that I'd left behind. And then they also held up they'd copied it. They had made them all, and the whole community, now all the Shipibos look a lot better. They do, especially after they get to be about 30. And so I had... Yes? Question, Pat?
Yes. Back to the birth control method. Do you know if there are fewer negative side effects?
There don't seem to be any. According to my informants, there are none, zero.
Hormones that we use here.
I haven't heard of any side effects. I tried very hard to find some.